Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today. Today we are going to talk about Pitta Prakruti, or the body type where there is this dominance of Pitta dosh. I'm just waiting to go live on Instagram as well at the same time, and let's discuss more about this. Okay. So if you are watching this live, please say a quick hi. If you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag as replay. And if you have any questions for me at any point of time, I'll be more than happy to answer the questions that you have. We are discussing Pitta type or Pitta Prakruti. This is, Prakriti is your true nature. It's your innate nature. It is the time when a certain dosha or a combination of certain doshas are dominant in your body, and they display certain characteristics in your body as well as mind. This series has been started by me along with Health Onwards, but Vrinda, for some reason, she couldn't be present today, so I'm going to host this by myself. And this is a really, really interesting topic. The one thing why we want to talk about Prakriti is you really want to be able to understand your nature. There is nothing wrong with being a certain nature. There's nothing wrong with being a Vata or a Pitta or a Kapha or combination types. But what you have to do is you have to make the best of what you're given. Make the best lemonade of the lemons that you've been given. If you've been given, maybe grapefruits, you make grapefruit juice, or if you have strawberries, you make a strawberry shake. So that's the whole concept of Ayurveda and understanding your dosha type or your body mind type, and this is extremely important. So okay, Helen is here, I believe. Riverbank. Oh, Jessica is here. Hi, nice to see you. So if you're watching this live, say a quick hi. If you are watching this as a replay, please post a hashtag as replay. Hi, Swati, nice to see you. So let's get started. I'm just looking at my notes. So the one thing to understand about Pitta Prakruti or Pitta Dosh mainly is that Pitta Dosh is the one that has characteristics like the sun, right? How the sun is really bright and shiny, and the sun kind of Pitta Prakruti sort of represents the sun in this realm, on the earth. So Pitta types or Pitta dosha is what really signifies the heat, the warmth, the light of the sun, right? And Pitta is a combination of fire as well as a little bit of water element. Now, why do we talk about water as a combination of Pitta? Because there has to be some kind of fuel that helps light the fire, right? It's not exactly water, but the fluidity is extremely necessary for any of the functions of Pitta. And unlike Kapha, Pitta is not dry. So Pitta people are pretty, their skin is not going to be as dry as a Vata type, right? And this is a very fiery, it's a very intense energy. So most people who are dominant in this Pitta dosha are going to be very intense. They're going to be very passionate about certain things. And that is how they are change makers. They're not somebody who will take things for granted. They're not somebody who are going to take it easy. If they really believe in certain thing, Pitta types are going to make sure that they take action and they change the world around them for what they want to see. So that this is really important to understand about the Pitta type. The other factor is transformation. If you look at fire, right, as an element, fire element has the capacity to transform water into steam, right? And the lack of fire is going to solidify the water back into ice. So this is like the intermediate dosha, between the three doshas. Pitta is the intermediate dosha, which is the very reason of transformation in the body. And when we talk about the dosha by itself, not the prakriti, that it is going to control a lot of processes on the cellular organ level, your digestion, metabolism, vision, hunger, appetite, intelligence, clarity is also a characteristic feature of this pitta dosh. And qualities of this pitta dosh are, it's also very sharp, right? So people having a pitta body type are going to have a lot of what we call a sharp tongue, right? They're not going to mince their words. They're not going to mince like do things just for um, pleasing people. They are not going to, they might not have filters in their body, um, or in their mind, or on their tongue. So in Marathi, there was a phrase my dad would always say, because I was really blunt, is that you don't have a bone in your tongue. Technically, your tongue doesn't have any bones. But that's a saying where it means that you're not going to mince your words, you're going to say it as it is. And usually, Pitta types are the seekers of truth, and sometimes it can come to them at any cost, right? So people who are leaders, people who are passionate, people who are torch bearers, who are bosses, who are in leadership roles, who are reformist activists, and these are the people you don't want to mess with, are typically Pitta type. When we look at the physicality of Pittas, certain characteristics are, they're going to have a medium frame. They're going to be well developed, they're going to be proportional, they don't have that disproportionate nature of vata. And usually these are people who are always 5 pounds plus minus, right? They're always going to be in that 5 pound range, where they're going to easily lose or easily gain weight. Vatas are always underweight, whereas Kaphas are always going to struggle to lose weight. They can't lose weight for anything. But Pittas are, if you are somebody who's been a certain weight your entire life, if you are somebody who's never had issues with weight gain or weight loss, like you're never underweight or you're never overweight, then chances are your body type is more a Pitta dominant. Pittas also have a good metabolism. They also have a strong digestion, and they have a strong appetite as well. So these are people who can eat a lot of food without it showing up on their bodies. So if you see somebody who's like eating enormous quantities of food, but they still maintain their weight, that is because of this Pitta dosha, which has a strong metabolism, a strong appetite and digestion, and that's really helping them, right? Now, Pittas, because of the heat, aspect of them, or the warm, they're always warm in their bodies, right? And in the mind, they're quick to temper as well. They can get irritated pretty easily. They can flip pretty easily. They can get annoyed very easily, right? So you have to be a little bit cautious with Pittas. So lashing out is going to be very common for them. Like anger is a common characteristic, for most Pitta types. And they are also delicate, nature wise. They're, if the Pitta is in excess, in the body, it can also create issues like ulcers or digestive tract issues, where there's a lot of heat in the digestive tract. There could be lots of inflammation in the gut as well. So those are some issues that could be extremely common with Pitta type. Now, how to identify them is, they have a skin that has a goldenish yellowish hue to the skin, right? Or a reddish tinge to the skin. Most kaphas are going to be like really clear skin, pale porcelain skin. Pittas are going to have that goldenish tinge to the skin. They can tan pretty easily. They have reddish, tinge to their skin as well. And these are people who can burn pretty easily in the sun, right? So if you are somebody who hates sitting out in the sun and you can get sunburned, right? This is the reason why it's happening, because you already have a lot of heat in the body, right? And exposure to excess heat is going to make you either hot headed, irritated, tired, exhausted, or your skin is going to get burnt very easily. Now, premature graying or hair loss is also another common aspect of this Pitta Prakruti, right? So my own hair, like the first gray, I think I found at before the age of 18. And by the time you're 40, if you are having a lot of gray hair, premature hair graying, that is a characteristic of this Pitta dosh. And it is the nature, and it's that excess heat that's generated in the body, can also go in this head region, which makes you angry, which makes you irritable, and it also makes for hair loss or premature graying of hair, right? Now, Pitta people are having very sharp features. So they have very sharp angular features, and they are also going to have light colored eyes. Or if you look at the sun, how the sun is brilliant and light and bright, similarly, any kind of light eyes which are typically hazel colored or greenish, um, those are the pitta kind of eyes. Or even certain shades of brown which are more warm shades. So if you are like a warm color person, chances are you are a pitta body type, right? And the body is medium, the eyes are medium, the forehead is medium, so it's not going to be excess or too small, right? So that's one thing to understand about pitta. And they have really sharp features. So sharpness is a characteristic in the language, in the tone, also in the features. And these are people who can tan easily as well as sweat very easily. So without even doing a lot of activities, if you're sweating pretty easily, that is a very constant uh, sign of, or a very definitive sign of pitta. If you're constantly sweating no matter what, right? Unless you're massively obese or something. So I'm going to say a quick hi to Dr. Anjali is here, Ravi is here, Amit Sarin is here, Ellen is here, and Mohan is here. Sunburns on face, yeah, 100%. Oh, Dr. Vandana is here as well. Hello. Hi Susan, hi sweetie, hi Swati. हो जिबेला हार्ड नाही 100%. 100%. माझ्या तर नाहीच आहे. um, so these are also people with a very sharp intellect. They are sharp and they also take decisions quickly. If you look at the language, right, when you communicate with a pitta, it's always going to be to the point. Chances are they have researched a whole lot before they approach you. Like if they're approaching you for a like for me, they'll approach me for a consultation, and chances are they have already researched a lot about Ayurveda before, because there is this knowledge seeking sign of the pitta as well. And there are also people who are very academically brilliant, sometimes even eccentric, angry men. If you look at Steve Jobs and all, those are signs of pitta. Now there could be additional doshas as well, 100% when it makes up your prakriti. Pittas have a sharp intellect, they have a strong willpower, they also have a strong mental power, they have fantastic leadership qualities, and a lot of their mind and emotions are going to be pretty steady as well. They're not constantly changing like a vata type is going to be. And they will fight for their beliefs. They will take charge, they will fight for their beliefs, and they will really focus on what needs to be done, what should be done, because that's extremely important for them, right? So these are signs of Pitta Prakriti. So number one point I wanted to talk about was the signs of Pitta Prakriti and how to identify it. So if you are somebody who has like a lot of moles, freckles on your body, if you're quick to temper, light colored eyes, or goldenish tinge to your hair, your skin, that is a sign of Pitta Prakriti, right? So we talked about the how to identify certain characteristics. Now understanding crucial life stages for a Pitta Prakriti person, and I'm going to talk about certain tips which nobody thinks about. So I hope you find this interesting. So one of the most important things when it comes to pitta life stages is, different doshas govern different life stages. So when you are a child, right, till the time you're about either 16, Charakacharya has said 32, so there is this childhood phase or balya avastha till the time you reach full maturity, that is governed by this kapha phase, right? But as soon as you start developing puberty, so as soon as you start, your hormonal activity improves. Hormones can also be understood as a lot of pitta like molecules in the body. They're pitta and vata as well, and certain chemicals in the body like histamine, is a very pitta molecule, right? So that is why people who are delicate or people who are pitta types are more prone to hives and rashes and all of those, right? So taking care of your pitta is extremely important. And when is it important? In the middle age, right? So middle age, so after you hit puberty, your body starts transitioning from the kapha to the pitta stage. And when you are really active, when you need to use all your intellect and make a living, and you're constantly on the go and fighting in this world to make a name uh, fi- for yourself, this is middle age is going to be the Pitta stage, right? And this Pitta stage is extremely important for also the proper balance of the body. If you develop a good balance in this time, especially for women, you are not going to have an early menopause, right? If you take care of your Pitta, if you nurture your Pitta, if you nurture your body, if you balance your Kapha as well, what ends up happening typically in the middle age for most women that I see, that you're getting this constant burnout, right? And constant burnout or depletions in the body, not taking care of yourself, not eating right, not sleeping, this is all going to aggravate a lot of your Pitta as well as Vata, right? And Vata aggravation is going to create issues like early menopause. If your Pitta is severely aggravated, you're going to get different conditions like gastritis, acidity, acid reflux, or I'm getting ulcers, I feel burning in my chest, I feel burning in my stomach region. These are all conditions you can typically see in the middle age. Children don't complain of heartburn. Seniors may complain of heartburn, but maximum gastritis issues with digestion, happen during the middle age, especially when we talk about the acidity. So this is the one thing you should pay attention to. The other thing I wanted to bring in attention to is today, we are exposed constantly to the screens 24/7, right? And anything that's light or radiation or vision, where you're constantly engaging your vision is connected to the fire element. And if you're constantly in front of your computer, that also is something that's aggravated your Pitta. And somebody who's a Pitta dominant person is going to get a lot of redness of eyes, irritation of your eyes. I can't sit in front of the computer for a long time, my eyes hurt. So if your eyes are getting bloodshot, if your eyes are getting really feel hot or burning, that is also an issue, which could be, aggravation of Pitta, especially for a Pitta dominant person. I'm going to say a quick hi to Sheetal and Katie. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comment section and I'll be more than happy to answer. So please let me know if you have any questions. So these are a few things, you need to take care of to be able to, balance your body. And another, when it comes to diet, now let's talk about diet and the Prakriti. So one thing you have to do is you have to have a diet that is cooling in nature. Your foods should not be extremely hot, spicy, pungent, or warm if you are a Pitta body type, right? And one thing I see in today's world is, everybody wants to go on a fermented diet plan or include kombucha or kefir or some kind of sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi. So fermented foods are something that are celebrated in today's world, right? But I have so many clients who are having issues with histamine or gastritis, and this excess indulgence in the fermented foods is creating issues for you, right? So if you are a Pitta dominant person, you cannot or should not be eating a lot of fermented foods, right? Three tastes that you need to stay away from. The first one is salty, sour, as well as pungent. So if you're indulging in a lot of chips, right, or something salty and having lots of salt in your diet, you have to stay away because it's going to make you retain water and give you a lot of gastritis or more issues. Sour foods again are going to increase your gastric acid secretions and going to create gastritis. So you have to be away from sour. And pungent foods can increase the circulation, but they can also create issues with the blood. And blood is another tissue, according to Ayurveda, that's connected with Pitta, right? Also, I've seen that a lot of Pitta Prakriti people, because they will watch some videos and they'll be like, oh, spices are fantastic for me, I should be eating lots of turmeric. And then they start eating turmeric by the spoonful in all their meals. And this itself can aggravate your Pitta dosh. So you have to be careful with spices, especially sharp spices like cloves, cinnamon, and even turmeric in larger quantities. So anything that's pungent has to be avoided. So yeah, so pungent foods are spicier foods, right? So anything that's spicy, anything that has a sharp quality. So we look at cinnamon. Again, a lot of people I know use it for blood sugar balancing. And I've known my clients to add a teaspoon of cinnamon to their oatmeal and they were getting a heartburn. So this is the wrong way to do it. Spices, you can use it in smaller quantities. When you use spices in therapeutic doses or in larger quantities, they are going to work as herbs, or they're going to create certain changes in your body that may or may not be beneficial if you're not working with someone, right? So that is, I'll be addressing that, Dr. Partner. Thank you so much for your suggestion. We're going to talk about the digestion in a while. So pungent foods, spicy foods, kimchi, pickles, or the Indian pickles are pretty spicy. The westernized pickles are very vinegary. Vinegar is another thing you need to avoid a lot if you are having this pitta dominant nature, right? So vinegar is something that has to be avoided. um, Spicy, cloves, cinnamon are to be specifically avoided. Turmeric, even fresh ginger, ginger can work fantastic to help with digestion, but too much of it, because again it's a pungent herb, is going to create issues with your pitta dominance, right? If you have a pitta dominance or gastritis, so you have to keep that in mind and avoid it. And even kombucha, or anything fermented, occasionally yes you can enjoy it, but not on a daily basis. So what are some spices that work really well for a pitta type? Coriander seeds, also known as cilantro, right? Parsley is another good spice. Cumin is another mild spice, right? So anything that's gentle and mild, even basil in, small quantities, you can definitely use it for digestion, right? Now, what are some best vegetables for a pitta type? So anything that's either sweet, which is like a root vegetable, right? Or any kind of squashes, they're going to be generally good. Or if they are bitter, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, bitter melon, are going to be good. Or they have a lot of water content, they're going to be good for a pitta type, right? Some vegetables you should have in moderation are eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, hot peppers, chilies, as well as beets. Some fruits you can have is a lot of sweet fruit, so don't go for sour berries, sour cherries. Anything that's sweet, that's fully ripe, is going to be good for you. Coconut is a fantastic pitta related food, right? If your digestion is strong, coconut can also be heavy to digest, but coconut water is very calming and soothing to the pitta type, and that can be the beverage of choice. So rather than going for kombucha, or rather than going for any kind of soda or pop, having coconut water on a regular basis is something that's going to balance your pitta. Dry ginger will definitely help. Yeah. So if you are having any issues related to indigestion, rather than going for the pungent, fresh ginger root, you can buy dry ginger. It's also known as shunti in Ayurveda, and that's definitely going to help you. Um, Yeah. So when we talk about hunger, so this is a really good opinion, Dr. Patankar. So Dr. Patankar says that in the opinion, you have to have food when you're hungry, and this is the right time because you are hungry. Your body has sent some signals, your brain has sent signals to your stomach. You have those enzymes that can digest your food, right? And then the formation of your body tissues, which are also known as dhatus, will occur properly. Now for a pitta type, for a person who's dominant in this pitta dosh, what ends up happening is they have a strong hunger and they have a strong appetite, and chances are that these people are going to be hungry constantly, right? So, one simple remedy for this is again protein at each meal. So, having a good amount of protein at each meal. It doesn't mean a ton of, protein or protein shakes. It doesn't mean like 8 ounces of steak at each meal. But if you have some protein at each meal, this is going to keep your blood sugar balanced. This is also going to keep you stable because protein takes time to digest. If you have an oatmeal in the morning and if you're hungry in the next hour, chances are your digestion is really strong. So adding a good amount of protein or a good amount of fat or a good amount of fiber is again extremely important. right? So now, for one of the grains for a vata type, or a pitta type, the one of the best things you can do is rice, right? White rice is very cooling and very soothing. And sometimes you can also soak rice and take the water and even drink it, right? Or make like a thin congee. Congee is where you're adding lots of water, where you're cooking rice and you're making like a very thin gruel sort of. And what you can do is you can add some coriander powder, because you are a pitta type, and add ghee. Ghee is one of the fantastic fats for a pitta dominant person, because it is not going to increase your pitta. It's going to support your digestion. It's also going to lubricate you. And it's also going to oil your brain, uh, kind of, or your eyes, because your eyes, your brain, everything needs good fat, right? So literally you're oiling your entire body, your joints and everything. And when you have ghee with food, it's going to reach more places, and you're going to have it in smaller amounts. So adding a teaspoon of ghee, clarified butter, is extremely important for a pitta type. Ghee is also very soothing. Milk is very soothing for certain pittas. Unless you're allergic to milk protein, you can definitely have milk. It always has to be organic milk. If you can find A2, which is the type of casein, which is easier to digest, that's the best one. It's hard to find in Canada. But finding, like, drinking milk is very cooling, right, to the body. If it's organic, if it's clean. Yogurt or buttermilk are going to be very slightly warming to the body, right? Now, buttermilk, called takra, it's made differently in Ayurveda. So you're making fresh yogurt or fresh curd, and then you're making buttermilk for it. So then it's not going to have that much acidity, and it can help cool your body and digest. Now, soaked methi water, methi itself, fenugreek seeds are pitta increasing, right? So fenugreek seeds, even ajwain seeds or ova that we call in Marathi, are all, they help your digestion. Methi seeds also help balance blood sugar, but they are going to heat up your body. And for a pitta type, that is not something you should be having on a regular basis. You can have other seeds, you can steep coriander, cumin, fennel. These are the gentle ones, and these are the most popular in the Western culture in terms of Ayurveda, the CCFT and all that. So those are easier spices that can be made into teas. Again, caffeine and tea, black tea, can aggravate your pitta as well. So avoiding a lot of stimulants, avoiding alcohol. Alcohol is not your friend if you are a pitta dominant person. It is going to create issues for you, more or less, sometime. 100% it's going to create issues for you. So there was an interesting talk by, we used to call him OPK. So there was a physician in Mumbai, uh, I think Dr. Kapoor. Yeah, I forgot his first name. I'm like not good with names, but he used to do this free talks for, medical students. His name was Dr. OPK, is what we would call him. I think Kapoor. Yeah, he was associated with the Bombay hospital, and one thing he had told was, everybody who is going to be, every woman who drinks alcohol, it's not good for her. They can't metabolize it well, and he had some scientific studies to prove it, right? And women generally are more fiery in nature because of the menstrual, like we call them saumya, but it's like the yin and the yang, which is a concept I'll explain it later on, because I'll totally get sidetracked otherwise. But ideally, avoiding alcohol, especially like whiskeys or stronger drinks that have more alcohol, is to be avoided, especially. Yeah. So misconceptions about administering ghee. Yes, 100%. So ghee taken in proper limits, if you can digest it, it is not going to increase, right? It is not going to increase your cholesterol. It is not going to increase your fat. And ghee also has CLA, or conjugated linolenic acid, which will help with weight loss. Eating ghee itself is not going to reduce your weight. That's the heads up I want to give you. But you have to make sure that you are digesting the ghee as well, right? So always eat ghee with warm foods. Don't put it on a cracker which is room temperature, and don't put it in cold foods. It's not a ideal way to have your ghee. Always add it to warm foods. You can add it in your soup, you can add it in your dal, you can stir fry it with vegetables, or put it on top of stir fried vegetables. You can add it to your oatmeal. There are various ways you can have ghee, right? But also make sure you're digesting it. And if you feel heavy after eating tons of ghee, just keep drinking a little bit warm water. Now, pittas can't handle a lot of heat in terms of food. They don't like warm water. They're always going to go for that glass of ice water. One suggestion is that if you keep drinking ice water for a long time, for a few years, it is going to impact your digestion in a negative way, right? So your digestive signals are going to be completely skewered, and your digestion is going to be kind of pacified. The reason is your enzymes in your stomach operate at a certain pH as well as a certain temperature. So if you're putting ice on it, it's almost like putting ice on fire and extinguishing that fire, right? So avoid any kind of ice water. You can add certain things that help cool your body down, especially in the summer season, or especially if you are a pitta dominant person. I know in India right now, Mumbai and all, it's crazy hot. So they're almost getting like a lot of heat. One simple remedy for excess heat in the body is what's called sabja or holy basil seeds, right? So holy basil seeds or sabja, 1 teaspoon, you can soak it in water. They look almost like chia seeds. They swell up, they take a lot of water in them. Mix it nicely and drink it. You can also add it to milk. You can also drink some rose milk. Rose, again, the flower rose, it's very soothing, healing to the heart. It's also cooling to the body. There's a rose petal jam that's very common in India, known as gulkand, works fantastic for pitta types. Till the time I lived in India, I was 27 when I came to Canada. It was interesting that summers were awful for me because I'm a kapha pitta type. Summer season was the worst. I would be angry, irritable. It was really hot. And my entire childhood was spent on eating that gulkand, right? Gulkand is the rose petal jam. That's very cooling to the body. It was fantastic. And then we have this Garcinia syrup called Kokum Sarbat. So that was the other thing that I would rely on, especially for heat. And sabja. So sabja, holy basil seeds, easy to purchase in any Indian market, not super expensive. I've even sprouted some of the seeds, and now I have seedlings, and now I'm going to have my holy basil plants. So one question by Jayalakshmi is, black pepper for pitta dosh pradhan people is to be ideally avoided. If you are cooking, you can add whole black pepper in your tadka, right? Rather than putting a lot of ground masalas or too much of, crushed black pepper. So tiny amounts, if you add, you would be able to handle it. But if you're having issues like gastritis or excess heat in the digestive tract, I would avoid black pepper. I would avoid cinnamon. I would avoid cloves. These are extremely sharp. Also, there is one common churna in Ayurveda called trikatu. It's a combination of dried ginger, long pepper, and black pepper. So it helps digestion, but it's not the best for pitta type people. You're just going to get a lot of heat, and it may not work well for you, right? So I'm gonna see if there's any other points left. Yeah. So we talked about fermented foods, we talked about life stages, we talked about characteristics. Now let's talk about lifestyle strategies, right? So one of the lifestyle strategy is you have to make sure you're managing your stress, right? You have to make sure you're meditating on a regular basis, especially if you are somebody who's very reactive and hot-headed. And again, I have a story here. So when I was doing my second year of Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery, there was a month-long yoga course in the vacation time. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try it. So I get some credits for school. So I went for that 1 month of yoga where we were meditating every single morning. The class started 7 o'clock in the morning. They would do asanas, they would do pranayama where you are focusing on your breath, right? And that was the 1 month I was not picking fights with anyone. I was not reactive. I was really hot headed as a child. I used to get angry quite often. And that 1 month of doing yoga every single day, meditating every single day, had calmed me down completely, to the point my mom couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, because it was not my prakriti to stay quiet, right? So, if you are a pitta type, one thing you have to do is you have to develop a daily meditation practice, which is going to calm your mind and ground your mind. You have to have this grounding practice where you are going to focus on calming your mind. It will also channelize all your mental passion, fire in the right way, right? A pitta who cannot channelize his energy is always going to pick fights, get irritated, react to people around him or her. A pitta who can channelize their fiery energy is going to focus on creating the right things, moving ahead in your career, moving ahead in things that you're passionate about. So, this is the difference between an unchannelized energy and a channelized pitta energy. The same for all doshas. Vata, if you can channelize that vata energy that you have, you will focus more, you will gain more momentum, right? And you can actually create something that is worthwhile. The same for kapha, harnessing that kinetic energy can be done in different ways. Maybe this is another interesting topic. We can talk about how to harness your energies naturally. But for a pitta type, always have a grounding practice, always have a meditating practice. One other important lifestyle strategy for pitta people is to focus on self love and avoid comparisons. And this is extremely hard because you are overachievers. You are people who are passionate about things, and nothing's ever going to be enough for you. You push yourself to do the max, to be the max, to show up. And a lot of external validation matters to a pitta type, because the ego is also somehow dominant. It's just because you're like the sun, the sun wants to shine bright, but everybody has to see the sun, technically. So this is how pitta people are as well. So you need that validation, you need that external validation most times. And on the other side, you can be extremely self-critical. So even though you're a high achiever, even though people think that, oh my god, you're this amazing person and you've achieved so much, you can be saying mean things to yourself, you can be saying really nasty things to yourself. So that has to be kept in check, which is extremely important for a pitta type. And that is why you have to have some practice where you're focusing on self love, right? How many of you watching this are self critical? I am. Like, I'm working hard not to be. Yeah. Yeah, so Pitta Prakriti are sharp, and they can correct the direction, and they're perfectionists. But see, perfectionism doesn't always exist, and my idea of perfection could be very different from what it's a very subjective criteria. But from what I have seen is Pitta Prakriti people are also very sharp when it comes to their self. Like, they're not gentle with themselves, and they're extremely self critical. So focusing on your own health, your own healing, your own nurturing is extremely important for a pitta type. And one of the things is rose is a fantastic, if you're using essential oils, or if you want to cool down, rose is something that's also healing to the heart. In Ayurveda, we call it rudya, right? So it also supports your heart. So if you are having that negative things about your own self, or why am I not doing enough, why am I not being enough, and blah blah blah, use rose essential oil. Or if you have, put some roses on your desk, and that will also help you, right? Any cooling strategies work fantastic. Swimming works fantastic for a pitta person. Try not to go for hot yoga, which is extremely popular. So avoiding any kind of things that are going to heat up your body too much, especially heat up your mind too much, or say heat up your head too much. So if you're going out in hot weather, please wear a cap or a hat or something to protect your head and cover your head. This is also known as the crown region, or it's one of the most important marmas in Ayurveda, called Adhipati. So you have to make sure you're also protecting your head, always. If you're gardening, if you're spending a lot of time in the outside heat, protect your crown region, protect your head. And again, do not exercise beyond your capacity. Your body is also very gentle, right? With the Pitta Prakriti, try not to push yourself too much, otherwise you are going to burn out, right? And you're already a person who's pushing yourself too much because you are a Pitta type. So I know it's kind of challenging to deal with, but this is something you have to take care of. So I hope this was like important or useful. Sorry, I hope some of the information was useful. Tanya is asking a good question. What about jasmine rice? Any rice, white rice, is very soothing, cooling. You can definitely have it. You can have amaranth as well. Try to avoid barley, right? Try to avoid any kind of grains or foods that are going to heat your body up. But jasmine rice, white rice is definitely good. Pearl millet, rye, barley, try to have it in moderation. You can have oats, you can have quinoa, you can have finger millet, wheat, white rice is fine as well. Avoiding cheeses, is again important. Fish, when it comes to fish, a lot of ocean fish are also heating in nature. So try to be mindful about fish consumption. And especially if you look at crustaceans like shrimp, or if you look at lobsters, I would avoid those for a Pitta type. It's going to impact your digestion. Oils, as I said, coconut is one of the best ones. You can use grapeseed oil. um, yeah. Uh, Dals, beans, mung beans, chickpeas are one of the best ones for a Pitta type. They're not going to heat up too much. um, any kind of black gram, black lentils are going to be warming. Tuar dal that we commonly use for our dals is also warming in nature. Paneer and curd. Paneer fresh, you can have it. Curd, I would, if it's freshly made, if it's sweet, in moderation, you can have it. If it's store bought yogurt, store bought buttermilk, store bought paneer, you can just avoid those. So useful for, yeah. So Susan, the one thing is, what information I'm giving you is about Pitta types, but also summer is a Pitta season. As we go into this summer season where there's a lot of heat, our own body's pitta starts flaring up, right? So if you are not a classical Pitta type, or if you don't have a secondary Pitta type, what you can do is you can watch this video, take the suggestions, and implement whatever you find important from here during the summertime, where the nature is generally Pitta dominant. There's a lot of heat in the environment here, right? So that's something you can definitely do. And autumn, as we get into autumn, the first phase is when the Pitta is again very aggravated, right? So if you take care of your Pitta right now, it's not going to aggravate. So sunburn, how to fade them through Pitta dosha. So that's not quite the accurate question, but sunburn, one of the best things you can use is aloe vera. Aloe vera gel works fantastic for any kind of sunburns. Another one fantastic thing, and you can find it if you're based in India, Mohan, is called Shatadod Grut, right? So Shatadod Grut is where you're taking ghee or clarified butter and you're washing it 100 times, and that becomes extremely cooling, right? Even white butter, not the store bought butter, but the cultured, like the churned butter that we buy, or that we make fresh, is cooling in nature, right? So definitely, you can have, try some aloe vera, put it on your skin to fade those sunburns, or you can use this, what's called as 100 times washed ghee, or shata dhaut gruta, for your skin. It also works for dark circles, etc. So thank you so much. I'm going to be back in 10 minutes to talk about 5 things you should not eat in spring season. So 5 things to avoid in spring season is going to be my next talk. I didn't imagine this was going to be like a 15-minute talk. So thank you all for watching this live. Thank you all for all your questions. I'm going to say a quick hi to Ayurveda with Susan, Nicole, and Hope Martin as well. So join me in 10 more minutes where we're specifically going to talk about spring season and 5 things that you need to take out of your diet right now to balance your kapha in the spring season. So I'll be back here in 10 minutes. Stay tuned. Thank you and have a fantastic Saturday. And at 11:30, we are also hosting Dr. Hitesh Chaudhary, where we are talking about healthy bones and joints for aging. I won't be able to do that live on Instagram, but it will be on Facebook. So if you are on Instagram, you can join me on Facebook to learn more about healthy bones and healthy joints at 11:30 with Dr. Hitesh Chaudhary, who's an Ayurvedic spine specialist. So let's join him at 11:30. Thank you, Katie, so much for watching this. Thank you, Hope. Thanks, Saujay. And for everyone watching this, if you're interested in the spring detox, I'm hosting a spring reset, rejuvenate with Ayurveda for spring season. Works for all three dosha types, dosha combinations. It's a gentle cleanse. Please message me. I'll give you more information about it, and I would love you to join it. Thank you for watching this, and I will see you soon. 10 minutes. Bye bye.